Hey everyone, today's video is going to be a little bit different. My name's Todd White. I'm a Lumix Global Ambassador and also an instructor at Precision Camera. Usually I'm on the other side of the camera filming, but today I'm going to be talking about some firmware updates that were released about a month or so ago, maybe a couple months ago for the S1 and the S1R, but also talking about an update that's coming later on this month of May for the S1H. Let's dive in. So to start off, let's talk about the most recent firmware update for the S1 and the S1R. That is version 1.5. In that particular firmware update, they addressed three things. Number one, they added support for the pro-grade CFS Express Type B card. Secondly, they added PAL support on NTSC devices. So, what that basically means is there are two television publication territories. There's PAL and there's NTSC. The NTSC territory covers most of North America and part of South America. And the PAL region is specific to Asia, Europe, and Africa, and there's a few parts of South America as well. So when you select a region, that will also affect the frame rates that are available to you. For example, in an NTSC territory, we have the frame rates available to us like 24 frames a second, 30, and 60. Whereas, if you were to choose the PAL region, you'll see that shift and you're going to have 25 frames a second and you'll have 50 frames a second. Depending upon which territory that you're creating content for, just make sure you select the right region to get the appropriate frame rates for delivery of your project. I know for myself in the past, I've worked on a few projects for the BBC network and I needed to select the PAL region so I could record in 25 frames a second for project delivery. And the last item that was addressed in the 1.5 firmware version update was a safety measure. So originally, if you wanted to go in and delete all the images or all the content on one of your cards, you were able to do that completely through the touch menus on the back of the camera. As a safety measure, when you select to delete all, in order to finish that out and execute that, you would now need to go in and use the dial to select and then use the select button to be able to actually execute deleting all of the data on a card. Now let's talk about some of the updates coming out to the S1H. This is going to be firmware version 2.0 and it's going to be released on May the 25th. The big one here obviously is going to be Apple ProRes RAW out. So you'll be able to do Apple ProRes RAW out to the Atomos Ninja 5 recorder. So you'll be able to do that in 5.9K, also in 3.5K with a 4:3 aspect ratio in anamorphic, and Cinema 4K, which is a 17:9 aspect ratio. Also with this update, you'll be able to do HDMI out to a monitor while recording 6K internal, and you'll be able to disable the manual focus to sysbox over HDMI out. So currently over HDMI out, you can disable the majority of what you see on the back of your screen as far as what's displayed. Things like the level, the focusing box, shutter, ISO, aperture, and so on. But if you're in manual focus mode and you go and you adjust that manual focus, the manual focus assist box, the magnification box, is going to pop up and be seen on the recorder, and it will be in your recording as well. And the last key thing that'll be updated is there'll be an update for use with Sigma lenses that will allow you to use the function button on some of the Sigma lenses and to be able to program that. And also there'll be some image stabilization improvements when you're using the MC21 adapter. So those are some of the key features that are coming out with version 2.0 firmware update for the S1H. Now, I don't have any of the ProRes RAW footage that I can show you at this time, but as soon as this firmware update gets released, I will go out and shoot some footage and we'll do another video and we'll show you how to set that up on the camera and the Atomos Ninja 5 along with some sample footage. So now let's talk about how to update the firmware for your Lumix S1 and S1R, and obviously the same procedure for the Lumix S1H. First, you'll go to the Panasonic webpage for the firmware updates. I've included a link to that page in the description below. You will go in and select the firmware update for the camera that you have, download that, and unzip that file on your computer. I suggest you take one of your SD cards and freshly format that on the appropriate camera for the firmware version that you're updating. And then go ahead and put that into your computer and copy the bin file over to the root of that drive. Do not put it in any other folders, but copy it directly to the root of that particular SD card. Then, with a fully charged battery, go ahead and put that SD card into your camera, and then you will navigate over to the wrench icon, and then go to firmware version, and then firmware update. If you get to this point and you do not see the firmware update as an option that you can select, then that may mean that you have Bluetooth turned on. In order to do the firmware update, you have to have Bluetooth turned off. So if you need to, go back over to your Bluetooth settings, turn that off, and then go back to your wrench icon, down to firmware version, and then go to firmware update. Once you select firmware update and the process begins, do not touch anything at this point. Let it finish up. It'll take about 3 to 5 minutes for it to finish, and then the camera will reboot itself in power cycle. At that point, go ahead and go back to the wrench icon, go down to firmware version, and verify that the firmware update has completed. Hey, thanks so much for watching the video today. I look forward to seeing you on another video in the future when we talk about and show the S1H updates. But until then, please like, subscribe, and better yet, I hope to see you at Precision Camera and Video in Austin, Texas.